Happy March 1st. Happy New Year. The real New Year. Especially, this might be the start of either the start or the end of World War III, depending on how you interpret what just happened yesterday.
Correct.
Oh, should we get the map back?
Yeah, the map is
Got
back.
the map.
Oh,
We
I
hung
don't
it
think
up.
the map was ever actually seen.
It was never actually seen, I don't
Yes.
think. It was just referenced a lot.
No, we were talking. Yeah, when I was on like the first time, like months, whatever, before the election and stuff, we talked about the map a lot.
No one could see it, though. So
No,
when you listen to it, it's kind of like you can only imagine what the map looked like. We finally are working on the different audio, video
Also,
studio.
Greg argues that this is better than just Googling the map. He says this is more accurate.
Because now that we've moved into talking about raw earth, rare earth minerals versus critical earth minerals, that's actually the distinction. Before the debate happened, for the last, not the debate, it was supposed to be the sit down, whatever you want to call Zelensky's meeting with Trump.
Mm-hmm.
For the week leading up to it, we had Macron came in, very friendly with Trump. We had that Keir Starmer come in. He invited Trump to the palace to visit the king.
There,
They set a tone. All Zelensky had to do was come in and secure at least some more funding. He wasn't going to get security, but he could have. He just needed to be gracious to get the funding. The reason why this map is important now is because the battle lines are accepted. Like when you're looking at it, you can easily now draw where the accepted territory is. And CNN and the neo-convicts have moved on to debating when Trump says he wants rare earth minerals. Technically, rare earth minerals are they're rare, so they aren't that useful. And we don't exactly.
I thought you were saying raw earth.
Rare. It's rare earth minerals.
Really? I misheard him when he spoke.
If you're looking at the elemental table, it's that bottom 20. Like there's down the top 10
He's
row
rare
is the rare earth minerals. Those aren't as important as the lithium and the cobalt. Those are critical earth minerals. So they had to have Daniel
so
Dale.
that's the distinction.
Daniel
'Cause
Dale
I
had to
kinda
come
thought
out and fact check.
I kind of thought he was talking about that. He was talking about the the strip mining. Is almost.
If you can play that, I have a really good clip
Is that the one you sent me?
that explains when Trump is constantly going to refer to Zelensky's hand. And you'll never hear the neocons actually refer to this in poker terms because to me it makes sense. I had never heard it come from Trump because I don't believe Trump plays poker. I remember like one Playboy interview where he talks about what his ideal poker game would be. They ask him a question like, if you could play with people alive or dead. And he was like Winston Churchill, like Lincoln, that kind of game. But he also goes, I don't play poker. I'd be good at it. Just not his thing.
Okay.
For him to use the poker references, that was clearly like the all-in J.D. Vance, tech bro, Tulsi, end of the party, who I'm very happy to see they're in his ear. For the first time, it appeared that whoever's getting Trump his intelligence briefings now, he's getting the full story on Ukraine, not just what has been covered very differently depending on where you tuned into the news over the course of the last 10 years. But this clip does a good job of explaining when we're talking about what's at stake right now, it's not really land in Ukraine. It's who's going to drill for these various minerals that we use for electricity, our car parts, our iPhones, all different kinds of things. This is the CNN spook breakdown.
Maybe getting closer, but lots of questions remain about Ukraine's minerals. Where are they and how much are they really worth? First of all, what did President Trump mean by rare earths? Well, these are 17 elements in the Earth's crust. They are crucial to the production of electronics, clean energy, and some weapons systems.
She's referring to
But
the bottom
actually,
of the.
Ukraine doesn't have a
periodic
significant
table.
amount of these
Right,
rare
that's-
earths,
I
and we
must have
don't
already
really know
heard.
which specific
What's that?
minerals the Trump administration is most interested
The periodic table is what it's called, right? Or am I
Yes,
saying
yeah.
it-
Yes,
right.
I think I call it the elemental table.
Right. She's referring to the bottom two rows if you're thinking about how the structure is. Hopefully I can put this on the video. We'll see if I can achieve that.
deal.
You did a good job
Maybe
of
getting
describing.
closer, but lots of questions
This is where they are on
remain
the map,
about
these
Ukraine's
dots.
minerals. Where are they and how much are they really worth? First of all, what did President Trump mean by rare earths? Well, these are 17 elements in the Earth's crust. They are crucial to the production of electronics, clean energy, and some weapons systems. But actually, Ukraine doesn't have a significant amount of these rare earths, and we don't really know which specific minerals the Trump administration is most interested in with this deal. What Ukraine has more meaningful reserves of are the more subjective category of critical minerals. Now, each country defines this one a little bit differently, but it often includes things like graphite, This is a form of carbon, and you find it in batteries. Then we have titanium and zirconium. These ones are critical for defense. And lithium, which is used for rechargeable batteries, so very useful in making electric vehicles. So the big question is, where in Ukraine are they? Now, in green, we can see the rare earths. Now, as we said, not a significant amount, but then we come to the critical minerals. Let's have a look at graphite. We have this one in blue. These are significant. In total,
You have the
Ukraine's
map
believed to
memorized.
have 19 million tons of proven reserves. In red, we have titanium and zirconium, again, quite large areas. And actually, it's considered to be the largest titanium reserves in Europe. And this is the fun one. This is lithium. Now, you can hardly see it. It's these tiny little splodges here. But Ukraine is thought
There's
to
a bunch
hold
of them
one
up
of
over in
Europe's
Kyiv.
largest deposits. According to the Ukrainian government,
No, the other
it could be 3% of global supply, but none of it has been extracted. So actually, it is hard to say definitively how much it could be worth. Let's talk about some of the problems, because much of what we know about the rare earth deposits here are based on Soviet-era assessments. So it's unclear if it can actually be mined, and it would involve a lot of money.
It can be.
Then, of course, we have complications with some areas under Russian control. You can see some of the deposits around there. President Trump originally put a $500 billion price tag on Ukraine's mineral reserves. The draft deal no longer mentions this number, and frankly, no one knows how much it could be worth. Anna Stewart, CNN, London.
One of the issues when they said Russian control is at the beginning of the map, all of this was still Ukraine. This is also where the natural gas is at. This is the Donbass. This is the conflict region. Where it's stopping now is basically half of the critical earth minerals. That's what we're looking for. So the beginning of it was just saying the rare earth minerals is kind of a dumb fact check. What we're talking about is important earth minerals. We don't know exactly how much they're going to be mined. But she says the only thing we have to go off is Soviet era. Conveniently, that fake laptop that 51 agents said wasn't real lists all the different mines that Burisma and the Bohai Harvest Rosemont Seneca Company wanted to drill in the Ukraine. This was always a big part of the pot. It could be billions of dollars. It could be nothing. They're kind of playing coy with, we don't know exactly what's in it, but we've justified 10
they're
years
trying to
of
be
warfare.
like, well, Trump said it was 500 billion, but like, he's an idiot, so obviously it's probably not that much.
Exactly.
Like, that's what they were trying to imply there.
Like they are right. It has not been totally drilled out. That's been one of, since all of this region is contested, no one's going to go set up a mining facility in a region that could be carpet bombed. Because like we talked about before, this is all flat. You got Moscow right here. This whole Donbass is natural gas. That's the concern with the Black Sea, and they wanted to, ideally what NATO had been trying to do when we overthrew the government was to cut off Russia and us be able to take the natural gas and get it down here to Germany. But immediately in 2014, as soon as Maidan happened, boom, Russia moved in, took Crimea, took Odessa, made sure that they're not going to lose access to the Black Sea. That's a red line for them. They have been very clear on that. Right now, if you're looking at if you're Zelensky's advisor going into this sit down with Trump and you're explaining to him what his hand is, this is lost. You have some of these minerals. You don't know the exact value of them. Trump seems to be very irritated that a previous deal made out of Zelensky's kind of control was basically he was being given the weapons from the Obama and Biden administrations for free and not really expected to pay them back. Trump has came in and said, well, what do you mean we've been giving them blank checks? Trump says $300 billion. Zelensky does like $75 billion. It's a lot of money that it's unaccounted for. What we want assurances going forward is that if we're going to continue to fund your little battle, your hand, then how are you going to pay us? And right now, all they have is if you take into account what Russia is going to annex, it's not all that much. It's a lot of it is like what they said, the lithium, and that's where the conspiracies against Elon. A lot of the liberals are saying that Trump is going to get Elon's lithium for all of his SpaceX, Tesla, the semiconductor chips. That's where lithium is a big product. There's something to that. Elon is weapons contractor. I mean, he has contracts with the government. It makes sense. Like, he is going to be involved in these deals in some way, shape, or form. But when we're talking Zelensky's hand, that's what he is negotiating. So when he comes into it, there's a big... What the crux of Zelensky's argument is that he didn't take over until 2019. Mm-hmm. Trump's and J.D. Vance's argument is this has been going on since 2014.
Right.
And if you just want to go on with this, Russia instigated this, Putin's an awful person, and you just want me to condemn the country, then we need to actually go through the history, not just pick this up during our perfect phone call.
Well, if you become the president of a country, you have to understand that you're responsible for anything that happened prior, right? Like, I didn't come in. Like, Trump is still, again, Trump has to deal with. You have to deal with anything that came before. Like, Trump has to deal with all this nonsense that Biden and Obama did. That's part of how this works, right? If you transfer power, but like, you can't just be like, oh, it doesn't have anything to do with. Well, I mean, you have to deal with it now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, anyway, I don't know.
Well, I guess I got a lot of texts from a lot of people that I haven't heard from in a while, going kind of like also have not been following my takes on Ukraine, to think that I would have been outraged at Trump's behavior during this, because Trump went full apprentice boardroom. I'm the boss. You sit here. This is a dog walk. Like,
that's exactly. But again, when you're negotiating and we have been just handing them free money, and you walk in and you think again with the poker thing. It's like, yeah, you don't have any hand. You're walking in here, you have nothing behind you, and you're saying you're trying to act like a tough guy, but you're coming from a position of having nothing.
And
like
begging.
Yeah, you're begging us for free money, and you've been already getting it to the tune of estimated, $175 billion or whatever the hell, we can argue over that number all day. But anyway, whatever it is, billions, in the hundreds of billions of dollars. And what do you have to back up? Like, if you're going to talk tough, you have to have some reason why, something in your back pocket. Like, oh yeah, you can't screw with me because X, Y, Z, like some reason. Like for America, yeah, we have the greatest military on the planet. It's not even close. We have our military is bigger than like every other military on the planet combined. So that's what we have in our back pocket. Zelensky. What do you have in your back pocket? You have literally nothing. I mean,
JD flipped his cards. JD essentially, like, at one point in the first 5 minutes, and I encourage everybody to watch the full exchange because I think it was historic. Regardless of whether you're on one side or the other, this is either an escalation to World War III or a de-escalation. This was you don't normally get to see these kind of interactions between world leaders. And Trump even pauses at one point and goes like, this is great for TV. This is why I wanted this fought out here, is because the people need to see what the two sides are. Because for the last 10 years, Jake Tapper has been telling an entirely different narrative on CNN. So now
they've been painting. The propaganda machine has painted this picture of Zelensky in Ukraine like this poor, sad. But it makes no sense because they're this poor, sad little defenseless country that can't. But also like
fearless fighters.
They're so powerful that they are going to
killing
be,
Russians
so
20-1.
They're either like pathetic and have no hope, or like they're one of the greatest fighting forces in the history of mankind. Or like Russia's military is formidable.
Putin is both a military genius and a psychopath. That kid that he blows up his own pipeline. He'll shoot his own planes out of the air. He'll just cut his face to injure us. He's a madman.
Well, yeah, but they talk out of both sides of their mouth. But basically, the point is like Zelensky and Ukraine is not this like poor, sad little. They're just fighting for freedom. These democracy love. They're just like you, and we gotta support them because United States is all about defending freedom worldwide, and Russia is this big, mean, Hitler type guy who wants to bowl over Europe, and if we don't stop him right now in Ukraine, then Russia is gonna take over the entirety of Europe and create some kind of like Fourth Reich Nazi regime or something. That's what they've been telling people, and people believe that.
That was the trigger point when Zelensky slipped. when he decided to engage with JD, and JD basically said to him is, you're conscripting your own soldiers. Right now you have vans rolling through Poland and Europe. You're taking your citizens out of the streets and sending them to the front lines. That's what I mean by like exposing his hand in regards like, this is what you don't even have an army. And then he went with, well, we have to experience, we've had problems. We've had to experience mishaps and fear, but you have an ocean between you, and it's only a matter of time until you feel it too. And you just see Trump go off on, okay, you know what? Don't tell me how I feel. I'm going to feel great. We're going to feel awesome. You don't tell me how I feel. From that point on, I don't think Zelensky, in his defense, he's so dumb. I don't think he meant to sound as gangster as he did.
Yeah.
But he worded it as, if you don't give us the money, then something might happen here. You know,
that's
like that
it sounded like to me.
assassination attempt. Like what happened in Western Pennsylvania right after JD called him on it. You campaigned for the opposition in Western PA right after an assassination attempt.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
honestly.
What the hell? And you're going to come in here and not even say thank you? And at that point, you could see Zelensky reeling where it's like, oh, God, they've moved it to, you're being ungracious. You're disrespecting the office.
The problem
You
with
show up
Zelensky is
without a suit on?
he's a goofball. He's an
I see you
actor.
dressed up for me today.
He's literally an actor. Like, he doesn't have any other job. Like, he was brought in to do this job because he's an actor.
Right,
and they're
exactly.
like, go play tough guy. And then now he's playing tough guy, but now he's around actual tough. Like, Trump is a tough guy, and Zelensky's a clown. Like, he's
literally a clown. That's what his career was.
like,
A clown.
actually, he
he's
was
a
clown.
model. In 2014, he was an assless chaps hosting a late night comedy show. He was like Stephen Colbert.
There's the thing of
And
him
now he's
on
leading a
like
country.
Ukraine Got Talent or whatever the equivalent is, and
yeah.
he's got like things covering his fake boobies and his
No,
butt.
he's belly
cheeks,
dancing,
and he has them
he's-
over his
he's
dick.
belly dancing.
It's like the craziest thing. Like, imagine if
He owned
Trump
a
had
strip
videos
club.
like that out there. Like,
Well, that's why yeah, if it was like anybody that was in Trump's team or whatever, if there were video of that out about, can you imagine like
be
the
nuts.
field day that the media would have with you?
Right.
I mean, no, I'm not even like when I say Zelensky's a clown. Like again, that's literally
He's a
was
comedian.
literally a clown.
a jester.
Yeah.
Like a court jester.
And then they
in
were
the
like,
third world
all
democracy.
right, okay, buddy. Well, I don't know. I guess you're gonna because then he was also on a show where he played the president of Ukraine, right?
Yes.
Did he? I don't know that.
So they
The
literally were like,
sitcom was he was Stephen Colbert, who ends up leading the country. They take a late night comedian like a Jon Stewart, and all of a sudden make him president because he's a good actor. He was supposed to bridge the unity between the Russian speaking side of the state and the Western, more European.
And then I love
ethnic
how
side of the
he's
state.
saying that it's to defend democracy. Didn't they just cancel the last election to keep him president?
That's it. They hit all those little mini points in like just a 1 minute span. That JD he did a perfect job of. I've been kind of critical of JD since taking office, just because I'm not as big on the Silicon Valley connections. This was a good moment for him to step up. Where I guess one of the questions I had is, do you think this happens with Mike? If this was Mike Pence?
No.
Because Marco Rubio was there too. Marco Rubio was hiding from the camera, like trying to duck behind the curtain, just pretending not to be a part. Because he's the one getting hammered online from the neocons. They were like, come on, Marco, you were supposed to step in and talk about what a patriot Zelensky was. And he did nothing. If Mike Pence was there, he definitely would not have asked to engage Trump. Like when JD raises his hand and says, can I say something? And he says it. And then Zelensky goes, can I address JD? And everyone looks at each other like, yeah, sure, you can talk to JD. And he goes, you never visited Ukraine. And that was like his whole line is to hit JD with, you haven't been here. And he
you should have come with Sean Penn.
Sean Penn, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Victoria Nuland, like Bono.
Ben Stiller.
Sean Penn was a great one. Chris Christie.
Well, didn't
Everybody paid
was,
an
I think
homage.
didn't Sean Penn like hand him an Oscar or something?
No, they gave him an award.
Yeah.
An award. I think that was, and I think they put his name on a bomb.
Wasn't it? Yeah,
They were going to
didn't he
hit
get-
Russia with.
He did get an Oscar, right?
I think
Zelensky,
Sean,
yeah.
ceremony.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sure like
It's so ironic that
he handed him
Because
like,
he's
there
really
was,
he's really just concerned about getting famous. That's why he's doing an interview with Brett Baer after.
well,
he's
that
at
was
the
like
White House.
what point of that in the war? I don't know if it was 22 or 23 or whatever, but there was one point in like it was the middle of like the worst part of the fighting, and then he's like posing for him and his wife are posing for Vogue magazine, and like it's like, dude, you're a joke. This is a joke. Like this is not a serious. You're not serious. Like this is goofball shit that
Exactly.
you're doing when you're supposed to be like we're he's out there doing his press tour like all over Europe and all these American politicians and actors that he's talking to. He's like, yes, we are a very sad country. Oh, this is terrible. We just need to stand strong and all this goofiness. And then he's all like,
Ukraine
playing, he's just like, yeah, I'm hanging out with Sean Penn, getting Oscars and going to shoot for Vogue magazine. Like, dude, you're a joke. This is a joke. And the only reason that people believe all this nonsense, like, you guys remember at the very beginning, and there was like the Snake Island story where like a Russian ship came and there was like 8 soldiers and they all valiantly died. Like, that story was made.
I would love to hear that news clip again.
That story was made up, and then the ghost of Kiev thing where it was like this secret fighter pilot that was shooting down. Like,
I forgot about
he
that.
He had 30 kills of these Russian airplanes, and it was like that story was fabricated. Like, that was all made up.
Santa Claus.
Just the entire and that's why again I lose my mind every time we get into a new global conflict of any kind of importance. When I'm just like, guys, we now understand that the last conflict we just had, the last major conflict on the world stage that everybody paid attention to, the early 2000s until basically 2 seconds ago was Iraq, Afghanistan, that whole kerfuffle with the war on terror and all this stuff. And now just about everybody, the general public for the most part now understands that the pretense for going and doing all of those things was lies, and everything about the conflict was a waste of time, money, and American lives, and as well as Iraqi and Afghanistani lives. Just death tolls and money thrown in a hole, and it was all based on lies. And then a new one pops up and nobody wises up and thinks to themselves, hey, should I be skeptical of this based on the fact that we just figured out that the last 20 plus year conflict was all only done because I was lied to incessantly for the entire time and propagandized into being gung-ho about supporting that conflict? No, yeah, I love Zelensky. He's awesome. He's such a badass. Like, it's just when people fall for this shit after the last time, you just go like, how in the world is anybody buying? Like, that the last time they just told you about the thing, that it was all bullshit. And now this goofball walks in and everyone's like, oh my God, he's a hero. We must stand with Ukraine. I'm going to change my Facebook profile picture to the Ukrainian flag. I love it.
They've just picked a side and they have to stick with that side. That's all it really is.
It's having.
Well, it just blows my mind that time after time, it's that easy for them to just pull the propaganda lever and get people on board with the next stupid thing when the last stupid thing was bullshit.
Hey, they all still think we went to the moon, so
they're reeling off having to fix a number of fact checks. They have a very difficult time retelling. Jake Tapper's about to put out a book called Original Sin, where he blames Joe Biden for not stepping down early enough and costing the Democrats the election. And he's trying to erase his culpability on playing dumb that Joe Biden wasn't senile when he took over in 2020. Or anything that we realized in June of 2024 after Jake Tapper performed the hit job on CNN during the debate. He's going to try and sit here and explain that somehow he just believed that Joe was going to step down and he had it together. In order for you to say that, you have to go back to the original impeachment of Trump was because of the phone call where Democrats have argued that he was trying to shake down Zelensky into blackmailing Biden and the Democratic Party. It didn't turn out to be blackmail. It turned out to be that Trump was on a fact-checking mission to find out exactly what a lot of people had already known was going on in the eastern part of the country before he took over. So this all stems back to that. And during that point, in order to prove Trump wrong, Biden was going to have to take the stand. They weren't going to put him on the stand because they were going to say he didn't have any memory of anything that happened after Beau died. That was before they made him president. So there's this great narrative change that they made where they were getting ready to tell everyone that Joe didn't know what was happening in Ukraine because he was too focused on his family, to the man is sober and bright enough to be president, to, okay, no longer can he be president. And that whole time, we didn't know that there were issues with his mental cognitive ability.
Right.
We didn't know that there were people
Yeah,
behind
but
the
anybody
scenes
paying
operating
attention obviously doesn't buy that they didn't know.
No.
Because they were already.
And if you stick him right now, if you want to try and fact check Trump when he goes on the rant where he starts going Shifty Schiff and Clinton and Biden and Bush and Obama and Zelensky, at that point it's like I was a stripper. That I was dancing. I owned a strip club. I was partying. I was my best me. I was enjoying. I was Hollywood. I was having a great life.
But a
war kicked off.
But they want Trump to continue the precedent that was set prior to him.
And
so it's always just hypocrites.
which is where I think we needed. Trump was unique in this time where, as crude as, especially if you don't like Trump's style, as crude as he may have came across at points during that, it was necessary to show the public, like, we can't be lectured to by this country anymore. It's one thing if he's going to come in and ask us for a favor and be humble about it.
The thing is, when I know that the conflict is pointless, right? It's just this war, like they said yesterday. Yeah, it would have been over in days, maybe couple weeks, whatever, if the U.S. wasn't financially paying for this war to go on. So you're talking about a country that is conscripting men to go die in a conflict that does not have any other resolution other than Ukrainian surrender in some fashion. So for the past how many years now, we've just been – everyone who's died in this conflict on both sides died unnecessarily, just like most of these conflicts, if not all. But
Stop
this one,
the
it's
killing.
like, so Zelensky is responsible for basically just sending his men to die in a conflict that he knew, everyone knew from the start was never going to end in anything other than Ukraine doing exactly what Russia wants them to do in the first place. So all of these billions of dollars and all of these millions of lives lost could have been avoided. This whole conflict is completely pointless because we're going to pull the money and then it's going to be like, and we surrender, and and Russia, the Donbass region is all now a part of Russia. Here, we'll change the map, blah, blah, blah. See you later. Like, this could have been done in 2 weeks, but no, they had to, spend billions and kill a bunch of people.
If this is all about a couple dots on a map that are different, we have these reserves are all over the world. It's not, and that's where it's like that. This isn't worth millions and millions of people dying over who's going to drill little blue dots. And what it starts to look like, and kind of like why I wanted to show the map like this, it's they start to look at it as what it actually is politically to them, and it's a piece of meat. And essentially, you start getting like these marbleized sections of fat that are in the country. And they're just going through now, and like what it is we want this cut of the beef, you get this cut of the beef, you get this cut of the beef. There's no longer those strategic lines moving back and forth. That's over.
The main stuff that I think is going to come out here very, very, because now we're at the point where this conflict is crumbling, and as you saw yesterday with the that whole kerfuffle, it's being very public. But what we're about to see is the revelations about what actually has been going on inside of Ukraine, which isn't good. I mean, aside from the war and the conscripting people and dragging them off to die, I mean, the amount
Nazis.
This is like a European.
They have a real Nazi problem.
Yes. Well, okay. So they have. So prior to these conflicts in 2014, you have, and I sent you guys a video today, and it was explaining like these oligarchs who were funding these weird groups, like they were basically paying like the Azov Battalion and
the Right Sector and Svoboda.
Yes,
which
and they were funding all of these like Nazi
second generation
militarized
World War
groups
II.
to like
skinhead
have them fight, because they were fighting a conflict. There were separate Donbass, separate pro-Russian separatists, and they were they were financing these random neo-Nazi paramilitary groups were being funded by these random oligarchs. And, this was the precipitation to this whole conflict. But anyway, so the Nazi stuff is there. We have, it's like Europe's human trafficking hub, especially in this war, the amount of people, children and women that have been taken and abducted and moved all throughout Europe in human trafficking. Horrendous. We're going to get to the bottom of the Victoria Nuland admitted in 2022 that, I think it was Rubio, and it was some Senate hearing or whatever, and he was asking her about do they have biological weapons, facilities in the Ukraine, and she
Yeah.
basically was like, "Well, they're not weapons
That's map
facilities
3.
per se, but
That's
they're
map
like
3.
bio research,
Gain
laboratories."
of function, Alex.
Yeah, yeah,
Gain of
yes,
function. We're
yes,
just making
that's
them
what-
a little more deadly.
She
We're not
was just
teaching
trying
them
to, like,
catch a
skirt
baseball.
the fact
We're
that-
not teaching them to use utensils to eat Chinese.
But we're going
What
to
are those
get
called?
to the bottom of these
Chopsticks.
Ukrainian
Chopsticks.
biological weapons laboratories. They were like, "Well, we don't want that to fall into the Russians' hands." It's like, well, why wouldn't you want it? I mean, what are you talking? What's in there? What are you researching, ma'am?
Don't
So
Why are you not researching the cure?
yeah.
Why?
It-
Why
but-
does
but
Fauci have a
basically-
part in
I think we should do it backwards. We should make sure we can cure it and
So-
then create it.
so again, we're going to find out that the people responsible for everything going on in Ukraine are behind, like, the worst human trafficking crimes known to man, and bioweapons stuff is going on, and like it's just the worst, most corrupt. Like the United States has been using Ukraine as like this offshore like facility to house a bunch of like criminal activity that was like off the. So this is why they are so desperate. All the people on that side are so desperate to protect Ukraine because they don't give a rat's ass about the land or the people, Ukrainian people or anything. They give a shit about covering up their crimes that they've committed through Ukraine, and that's going to be exposed very soon. And all of these people are so screwed. It's funny.
That's a perfect transition into we're gonna have our next talk here about Epstein.
Next episode.
What to fit on theme with the gang conversation, and people can get hung up with Nazis because when you're just an American, you're thinking these khakis in Charlottesville
Yeah,
with tiki
right.
torches and mask on.
They don't really understand what a Nazi
No,
is.
this has nothing to do with it. Look at it more like you have, regardless of whether you think Ukraine is first or third world, drugs are illegal there. Prostitution is illegal there. Human trafficking is illegal there. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. That means that there are gangs that run that. Those gangs are Nazis. And they would be like whatever, like gang you'd affiliate in an inner city here in America or in Mexico where you have the cartels or the triads in Asia. Is when you're talking this section of the world, this area, Odessa, is ran by the Nazis. That's the docks. That's where if you're going to transfer American technology illegally into the Soviet Union, you go through there. If you want to transfer stuff out, if you want to take humans, kidnapped Russians, this is where you go through. That's traditionally where the mafias operate, is the trading docks. That's where Crimea, that's the Black Sea, like you were talking about the Ghost of Kiev, or the
Snake Island.
Snake Island.
Yes.
This little rebellion on this random island. This is where the gangs were. And what we did in 2014 is we gave the gangs police badges. Is we basically kicked out the
We
Russian
did it, or Ukraine?
police.
Ukraine.
Our CIA.
Our CIA.
Our CIA, when we overthrew the government, which
Okay.
we have on record, Victoria Nuland was in charge of figuring out how to turn them from a street gang into a military to fight the little green men that came in to defend this area after they voted to secede.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the debate really is if you want to talk about whether this is a democracy or an election, is in 2014, these regions that primarily speak Russian, they're Catholic, Orthodox, they identify, they're brothers.
They're Russian Christians.
They if they had a choice whether they're going to submit themselves to a Nazi police force or a Russian police force, they're going with the Russians. They voted that overwhelmingly, and that was the beginning of the occupation. Is they invited Russia in. Now, if we don't want to honor those elections, that's an argument you can make. We can have that debate. But if you're going to talk when this conflict started, 2014, Nazis were the guys who became the military. Right now, they're their best soldiers.
We'll probably
Like,
be talking about this more going forward and everything.
We'll get in. Yeah. All right.
All right.
Great.
See you next one.